Hello everyone. In this presentation on the Unification Church and some facts, we want to look at the origin of the Unification Church, where it began after Reverend Sun Myung Moon fled from a death camp in North Korea in the 50s, and then the spread of the church into Japan and Europe and America, and later on we'll look at a presentation about Reverend Moon's children. But first of all, we look at the first church we found in the 1950s in Busan. This was built after Reverend Moon fled from that death camp in the 50s. And you can see it's made from very humble materials, wooden ration boxes and bricks that were found nearby. The first followers had very little materials. They were very poor at that time. But soon, due to Reverend Moon's teaching, it was based on the purity of marriage relations, it spread, particularly to Iwa Women's Theological College, where it attracted many women students and professors at that time, who were attracted to the purity and the ideal of a God-centered marriage. But unfortunately, due to the nature that many young women were attracted to it, rumours, as often happens, spread, and they started to distrust Reverend Moon. So these rumours were spreading around, and this caused the dean of the college to be concerned. So sent two of her top professors, Young-eun Kim and Won-pok Choi, to investigate this move. So they went to the church to find out what are the teachings in order to warn the students against it. So they did. They went there, but to their surprise they found it's not a heresy at all, but rather it's a very sound doctrine, and it caused them to in fact join the movement. But still the dean of the college did not pay much attention to the top professors, and still did not go herself, it appears. So unfortunately these rumours kept spreading, it became an immoral church, and it caught the attention of the media, the newspapers at that time, and they started printing very negative articles, such as this one in Seoul Sinmun, July the 6th edition, 1955. Moon misleading women into fornication through eloquence. And in July the 7th edition, 4 married women were violated by Moon or Unificationists. This caused the Reverend Moon and some of his followers to be arrested on suspicions of this. So Donghae Ilbo newspaper prints, the first trial yesterday of the Unification Church case at the Seoul District Court, 4th courtroom at 10 a.m. was presided over by Judge Yoon Hak-ro. Although Moon became the adultery topic of conversation, there was no accusation of that. So prosecutor Kang Seo-young accused defendant Sun Myung Moon of evading military service. Also Won Pil Kim and Yo Min Yu. Photo shows defendants standing at the trial. The mark indicates Moon. And then the next edition, at the trial of the Unification Church, prosecutor Kang Seo-young sought for 2 years jail for Sun Myung Moon, Yo Won Yu, 1 year and 6 months jail for Won Pil Kim, Yo Min Yu and Yo Yong Yu. So although there were the rumours of immorality were going around, but they had no accusation of that. There's no evidence of that at all. In fact, the only point they tried to convict Reverend Moon was military service, evading military service. But then the article shows that Reverend Moon was actually innocent. His article, the Unification Church leader Sun Myung Moon is found to be innocent by judge in charge Yoon Hak-ro yesterday at 10:50 a.m. at Seoul District Court. Although this is a big statement, it went by unnoticed. in the newspapers. It's put inside, small article on the inside of the paper. And so all the other articles of this, the immorality that Reverend Moon was supposed to be involved in, were stayed in people's minds as fact, even though they had no foundation at all. In fact, he was proven to be innocent. And this caused problems for Reverend Moon throughout the rest of his life, because the negativity, the slur, followed him wherever he went, even though there was no foundation. And they're buried under all these negative articles. And so this is one of the professors I mentioned, one of those two professors that joined the movement at first, states, "I was exposed to our church as Dean of Students at the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. At that time, many brilliant students from the campus would go to a very strange group of Christians. The rumor was spreading. The school was very watchful. Dr. Young-Eun Kim was sent from her department, and I from mine, to save the girls from falling prey to that hated group. 14 people joined the movement. The school branded us as heretics. It gave us the alternative. If you want to belong to the church, then you must leave school." So Won Pot Choi, although she's a theological professor, it didn't bother them. They still treated her like this. They treated her as if she did not know what she's doing, but she decided it's a good teaching, a sound doctrine. The other professor, Young-Eun Kim, states, "When a group of professors and students at Ewha Women's University became followers of Reverend Moon, they were ordered either to leave the movement or be expelled from school. Since this act aroused venomous press criticism as a violation of religious freedom, the opposition began spreading vicious rumors that the new church was guilty of sexual immoralities. In South Korea, Unification members were denounced by the established churches. Reverend Moon was condemned by some Presbyterians as a heretic." From her book, Unification Theology, in 1980. But despite all this, Reverend Moon was declared innocent of all charges. And he continued what he saw his mission was to restore the ideal family or traditional family, where God is at the center. And he continued his mission of blessing thousands of people in marriage throughout the world. He taught them that the return of the purity of marriage relations, because in reality all the problems he taught come from families. If there's not ideal family relations, they'll come out into problems in society. If people don't have good relations with their parents, they will not have good relations with their leaders, and so on. And so you really want to focus back on the ideal family. But as I mentioned, because of the negativity starting in Korea, wherever Reverend Moon went, the negativity followed him. When Reverend Moon first went to America, he was welcomed as a good person. As soon as the media, the journalists, wanted to research who Reverend Moon is and what this movement, this new church is about, of course they contacted their colleagues in Korea, and they dug up all the negative articles from way back at that time. And then it didn't look very good. And so people started to distrust Reverend Moon. And a lot of negativity formed in America. And Reverend Moon was accused of tax evasion due to this. But this was a very unjust accusation. It had no real foundation, as I'll show in this presentation as we move on. Many Christian ministers supported Reverend Moon at this time. In this picture here we see many Christian ministers in this protest decided to spend one day in prison with Reverend Moon if he was incarcerated. Ministers such as Joseph Lowry and Jerry Falwell and many others supported Reverend Moon. They didn't know his teaching, not because of the teaching, because they knew his unjust persecution. They didn't even know what his teaching was, but they knew this was totally unjust. The Reverend Moon was incarcerated, and he spent 13 months in prison. But on his release, he was welcomed out from Christian ministers who prepared a God and Freedom banquet at that time. So of course, the obvious point is, if Reverend Moon's so bad, why would Christian ministers support him? Because they know well that he was unjust. Senator Orrin Hatch always supported Reverend Moon's innocence, as we see in this slide here. But more recently, Senator Dan Burton states on August the 12th, 2014, "I want to set the record straight today. We know that it is because of such a righteous and effective stance that Reverend Moon encountered opposition and persecution, just as it came to all historical religious leaders. Just 2 weeks ago, I met with my good and long-time friend, Senator Orrin Hatch, who has served in the United States Senate for 37 years. He is well known in the United States as a champion of religious freedom and traditional values. Senator Hatch sincerely conveyed how he knew that Reverend Moon had been persecuted and mistreated. Back in June of 1984, the senator held important hearings on religious freedom in the United States Senate, and he stood strong to fight this injustice. He said on the record in those hearings, "As chairman of the subcommittee on the Constitution, I personally analyzed Reverend Moon's case very carefully and felt so strongly about what I believe were violations of Reverend Moon's constitutional rights in the manner in which his trial was conducted that I filed my own brief with the Supreme Court." Senator Hatch concluded, "I believe that injustice was done and that the treatment of Reverend Moon was because of his strong righteous stance against communism and immorality." I agree with Senator Hatch and would like to set the record straight today before you in this historical event. What happened to Reverend Moon was not the will of righteous American people, but a tragic case of religious persecution and bigotry. As a man of faith who was honored to serve my country in the United States Congress and on behalf of the patriotic and God-loving people of the United States, I am sorry that the United States system did not work to protect this man of God. Dan Burton, August the 12th, 2014. And Senator Orrin Hatch, who was quoted. Now Reverend Moon saw his mission is to restore the traditional family, the family that was lost at the time of Adam and Eve at the very beginning. Adam and Eve, the first couple in history, were meant to realize an ideal family, but they failed at that point. They failed to do this, and they created a dysfunctional family. We see murder was committed in the first family when Cain murdered his brother, and there's been dysfunctional families ever since. But you see, his mission is to restore this, and therefore, thus the various blessing ceremonies we see conducted around the world. It is true that Reverend Moon was divorced from his first wife. People often think, well, how can he be a man of God if he's divorced his wife? Well, in divorce case, if one partner wants to divorce the other one cannot reject that, and his wife chose to divorce him. He couldn't live up to that standard, and it broke Reverend Moon's heart. Very painful for him. He insisted, he wanted to keep this marriage, but he had to let that go. But he was married to his wife, Mrs. Hak Jahan Moon, since 1960, and have 13 children from this. people often criticize Reverend Moon's children because they have some various problems. But who doesn't have problems? And in fact, even Jesus said, whoever has no problems, let him cast the first stone. Everyone has problems. And it'd be... Reverend Moon, people often misunderstand. They think Reverend Moon, his children should be perfect. But he never taught that. Every individual's perfection is done by human responsibility. No one's perfect. No one's created perfect. And but anyways, having said that about Reverend Moon's children, they have problems like everyone else, and they have to bear in mind that they had to grow up in this evil environment, especially bearing the name Reverend Moon's children. So they suffered a lot because of this. But despite this, they did every one of them have taken leadership roles, and they've done a lot for society. They've lived their lives for other people. So they should be proud of what they're doing. And also, if we judge Reverend Moon by any of this, in any case, it's just as ludicrous as judging God for his global family. From that kind of logic, we say God is not very successful. We're a fallen world with people, all kinds of evil. But God has created us with human responsibility. And so it's the same. Individual responsibility, perfection or salvation comes from individual responsibility. And so we have to learn from this. Basically, many good people in history were judged wrongly. There's countless good people. We even mentioned Jesus Christ. Jesus, if you read Matthew 1:18, it says he was born of a virgin, basically. But regardless what you believe about the virgin birth or not, certainly the people at that time, in Jesus' time, did not believe that. You can read in John 8:41, where the people said, "Why do you speak to us? We are not illegitimate children. We're not born of fornication." It means that they thought he was. That's what they thought about Jesus. Jesus didn't fit their idea of Messiah, and they were convinced he was a bad person. And so they saw everything Jesus did with impure intentions. But they were wrong. So regardless how Jesus was born or not, we should know he was a good person by his life, by the purity in his life. And if they did that, they would not have made such a mistake. So the same thing today. We have to be very careful when we judge people. Reverend Moon lived his entire life for the sake of other people. And I really recommend you to take time to study Reverend Moon's teaching in the Divine Principle. Take time to study the person. And I think you'll be surprised at how many good benefits you can get from this. So anyway, thank you for your attention, and thank you very much.